Hey noble ones, welcome back to my channel. This is the Metatron speaking, and today let me take you to a really awesome channel, which of course you all know, Skallagrim from Skyrim. I've been a subscriber to Skallagrim for what, like 9 years? But regardless, there is a video of his that he published couple of months ago that I just noticed now because of course YouTube's algorithm constantly fails when it comes to pushing the sort of content that I actually like, even though it keeps spamming me with videos that I'm like, I'm not interested, mate. But the video in question is called How Dangerous Are Kendo Strikes with a Sharp Katana. Now we all know Skallagrim is very knowledgeable when it comes to both practical experience with weapon swordplay, if you will, and weapons in general, and of course the theory that goes behind it and the history. And I'm really interested in his opinion to this, specifically how he answers this question, mostly because of course Kendo, I used to practice Kendo. It was my first introduction to weapon-based martial arts. Before that I used to practice karate. I used to be a karate guy, not very talented, I'll be honest with you, but I did practice karate Kyokushinkai for some time in Japan, and then I practiced Kendo still in Japan because I used to live there for 2 years. Not that I'm an expert or anything, and I'm really curious to see what he's going to say here. So let's check it out.
Some people dismiss the martial viability of Kendo because of its comparatively limited range of techniques and valid targets, and the way it emphasizes speed over power in its tight, seemingly rigid movements. Personally, I haven't practiced Kendo and I don't have a horse in the race, so to speak, but I've learned a little bit more about some of its method through a friend of mine who has been practicing it for years. So I was curious to see how dangerous a Kendo-style strike with a sharp katana might be in a real duel.
Yeah, I thought, I see he's gonna actually test a course, because this is the practice guy. Like, I might be a lot of theory guy, but this guy, Skallagrim, actually puts it into practice. Love that. I think it's gonna be quite devastating, to be honest, because at the end of the day, I mean, if you manage to do a full-on deep cut on the temple here, or in general, if you manage to penetrate the skull, I mean, that's enough. It's really enough.
Important to note, something seems to have happened to it during shipping. Significant damage.
Oh no.
Hence the tape to keep it in place, because it's broken here, like the base of the neck is completely snapped, and the gel is torn there, as well as on top.
Okay,
so
but the bone structure seems to be still intact, and that's really the part, because obviously we know that any push or pull cut is going to cut through human tissue very easily. So I'm actually interested what's going to do through bone.
Totally messed up, but unfortunately that's all I've got.
That's fine.
Even if I get a replacement, that doesn't help right now, and I'm not going to throw it away without doing anything with it. I do want to see what this does. The quickest kind of cut that you would do in sparring.
The quickest kind of cut?
Yeah, like
just the pop, sort of that.
Like a little pop, you know? You can just go whenever you're ready.
Okay. Boom.
Yeah, you cut into the bone.
Yeah.
Right there. Not into the cranial cavity, but there is a...
And of course you would bleed profusely from that. And so even if he didn't do brain damage, imagine now all the blood on your face. I'm more interested in the sort of these kind of cuts to the sides here. I want to see what those do, because of course the temple is less resistant and thinner than the top of the cranium. So let's see.
Pretty noticeable groove in there.
I'll give it one more quick shot.
Yeah, please.
Like I said, you know, do the quickest you can. And the idea with this is that just something that you get the opponent with that affects them negatively. Like blood is running down,
exactly,
scalp cuts tend to bleed a lot.
It was kind of a sloppy cut. I'm a little bit sad about that.
Oh,
yeah, oh my gosh, yeah.
That did
and
something.
I've noticed one thing. Regardless of how humble he's being, you can see his form is really good. Look at his posture. So I kind of want to get to the moment of impact to actually examine which part of the blade came into contact with the skull. Okay, there we go. Right. So it seems like that this is the area that came into contact with the head. I personally think if he managed to hit it right here, it would have been optimal. But he's the expert, okay? So maybe he chose that for whatever other reason, and maybe I'm full of it, just saying, but still, the damage is serious.
Oh, that did something.
Yeah, boom. Oh my gosh, that's deep. Holy moly, we need to see that. Oh yeah, there we go, he's gonna stop it. Look, Look at that. It's a quick kendo cut. And look how deep. Yeah, this is you're not, you're gone. This is like system shut down. It's enough brain damage to call it a day. Yeah, he split his head in two.
Oh yeah, that went into the skull.
Absolutely.
You open him up. I can peek in there. Look at that. You split
Fascinating.
it from the crown all the way
Down about
all
the
the way
eye.
down to the brow. Really,
Yeah.
there's bone pieces flying.
Yeah, that too.
Yeah.
Imagine all the bone fragments that go inside and deal even more tissue damage to the brain. That also happens with firearms, by the way.
So this is it. This was already all opened up, so ignore that. But just the damage to the bone
That's
is
insane.
pretty scary. That is definitely a fight ender. I don't.
I agree with Skull, and yeah, that's why helmets are so important. That's why, like the other day when I was reacting to History Hit, and the otherwise excellent Matt Lewis was saying, no, I don't like this helmet, I don't see much, I prefer other types of helmet, which is of course fine. Open-faced helmets are absolutely an excellent choice depending on the situation. But then again, this is why you want a nice helmet. You want a good helmet. Helmets are the first thing you would buy if you could afford it, and you're supposed to fight in a feudal Japan, medieval Europe, you name it.
don't think that guy would come at you anymore.
No.
Yep, I think he'd have a bad day.
Very
Yeah.
bad. That's what I was interested in.
And that was still pretty fast.
Yeah, exactly. Kendo is
Yeah.
really built for speed, for like making the movement as small as possible and
Yeah.
Speed and precision, I would say, but yes.
just popping it quickly.
And I only came up really to about here, I think. Like it was kind of
Yeah,
that sort of motion.
yeah.
If you can put the katana aside for a moment. I want to do one with a rapier. So I have to apologize
Interesting.
for sloppy technique. I'm going to have to do it with my left because my right
Oh, no.
elbow is wrecked. I can't even hold the rapier,
Really?
let alone do a thrust with it. So
Well, 2 months ago, I really hope he recovered from it.
sloppy left-handed lunge it is. But I just want to see what this blade does. Oh my goodness, can I even do this halfway? All right. I got him in the jaw muscle.
Jaw muscle, yeah, a
which,
little
it's pretty rude.
bit. Pretty. Oh, wow. And that right there as well. I mean, poke an eye, go right into the brain cavity. Well, maybe it's not that deep, but still, you're out of combat, and that's something that it's really, really important to take into consideration, even when it comes to like medieval warfare, classical warfare. You don't need to freaking behead an enemy. You don't need to completely butcher them in order to take an enemy soldier out the fight. Something like this is out. You don't need to keep on going. It's gone. Just think to focus on the next opponent. And I know it sounds horrible, but focus on the next body and take them out of action. Out of action is really what you want to achieve when it comes to battlefield combat. Blue.
There it is. Got him right in the eye.
Yeah.
And clearly deep enough.
Yep.
Is
we
that
got-
Bone there is
Gatorade?
very,
Gatorade?
Holy.
Oh
more
no,
than I
yeah, no, that's
expected
dead.
Because it was
That's gone.
pretty light,
Gone.
really. Yeah.
I didn't think it was that
in the eye.
deep.
There was very little resistance too.
Yeah.
Well, the bone there is typically very thin. If
Thin.
They're doing
Thin,
it.
That's
yeah.
what I thought, yeah.
If they're doing it correctly, then yeah, the bone.
Clearly they did. Let's try this
Battle
crazy
ready,
one. Can you
Inosuke
do one
katana.
on this
Oh,
side?
yeah.
Katana.
Oh, this is weighted really weird. It's
Really?
actually like point heavy.
The balance is
Oh, that's-
almost halfway down the whole thing. Because there's no guard and
Huh.
the hilt has it doesn't have much mass. It's not balanced, it's just a bar of steel.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
Hulk smash.
Yep. Gone. Boom. Yeah, okay, goodbye.
It very much clubbed. There's a cut here, but then this is all smashed, and then there's kind of more of a cut here.
Fascinating.
Because of the weirdness of this blade, it's
Yeah,
just
I mean,
like,
I'm
it
not-
just hacks.
I'm not particularly interested in this one, to be honest. I'm more interested in the regular katana. I want to see, though, what Skull is going to say.
Back, so that's why I'm doing the ambush. With two hands, you can kind of circumvent the main hand
Okay.
and just really mainly swing with the other. even let go most.
That's what they tell you when you practice kendo, actually. Yeah, it's the left hand that makes the warrior. In fact, in Japan, they have this thing that says the left pinky, the little finger that makes the warrior, because that's where most of the balance is, and right is mostly for support. That's how you're told to consider the grip, at least mentally.
I say that, but my physiotherapist would still kill me if he knew what I was doing right now. But he doesn't.
There we go.
He'll just hear my complaints later.
Oh my gosh, that was beautiful.
That is solid clubbage.
See.
That is beautiful.
No, I
Interesting.
mean, the sword itself is.
Yeah, that fractured it.
Yeah.
It was a bludgeon. It was just an edge-on bludgeon.
And just it tore out a piece here.
Yeah.
That's definitely that one ain't too happy.
No, I mean it will kill,
Yeah.
Where is this from?
but
Was this from before? Or
No, I think that was you.
that must be this.
Feel like I'm watching like a
impact is here.
damn.
surgical
Okay,
channel
that's
now.
scary. I
Operating.
want you to take the big one and just slash him.
Lancelot Supreme Cutter Classic Edition. Gosh, what is it like? Goodness gracious, look at that handle. Very interesting.
Right across the face. Pretend you just sidestepped something and now you're coming here and you're trying to cut him through the face.
Yeah, just behead him,
That was
will you?
awful. It twisted in my hands.
Behead him, will you? Isn't it funny how perfectionist practitioners, like the real deal, not me, someone like, someone who's spent obviously more time than me, you can tell by his stance, in kendo, but in general, sword people, they will do this. It'll be like, oh, I did a horrible performance, you just beheaded him. My gosh. Bye-bye, Jaw.
Our last, poor Yorick.
At last.
I knew him, Horatio. As it came in here, it twisted kind of when
Right.
it hit the jaw, I think.
You cut how many
Okay,
teeth
now
off?
what you would see in movies is either the samurai, in this case, takes the sword, the katana, and just puts it back in the saya with all the blood in it, which is stupid. Of course, you wouldn't do that. It would rust. It would, it would be a mess. It would be horrible. And so what you see, however, that's completely wrong. But then again, we have another wrong interpretation sometimes, which we see in both video games and movies, which is the idea of taking the blade and do the little movement like this, which is called chiburi. So like the fall of blood, literally. It's either the movement like this, you see it in Yaido sometimes, or the one in Katori Shintoryu, they do the little flip, the sword flip. Then again, that's all ritualistic and it's just a representation, but that's not what a samurai in period would have done. They would have taken a piece of cloth and they would have cleaned the blade. Simple as that. And then you put it back into the scabbard. Always clean blade in the scabbard, in the saya.
Off.
Cut straight through is...
4, 5, 6.
Yeah.
You cost them 6 teeth and the jaw that's attached to them.
Right.
So how about the edge? Is there any damage?
No.
No,
Nothing.
no.
Nope.
Can we see where it hit?
Of course, when it comes to real period katana from Japan, feudal period, then you would have, there might have been some damage after you cut a skull like that, although then again, I think most of the damage that these swords would have sustained would have been when they encountered metal, of course, or hardened leather, but bone is quite resistant as well. That's why when you can, you always want to try to go through the path of least resistance when you are, for example, on a battlefield, rather than hitting someone literally here. Although then again, if it happens, it happens. If that's what you've got, that's what you've got. But if you could, cutting the throat, cutting the stomach would be better for your sword, and maybe the temples would be another excellent target. But clearly, that's just in an optimal situation. In the chaos and havoc of battle, you do what you can. Clearly, modern swords, like my replica of my katana, is high carbon steel. So it's a fantastic steel, but it's definitely better than period steel in Japan. Not to say the Japanese katana weren't good when it comes to the quality of the steel. No, they were. But then again, when modern replicas of katana do not always represent that well.
Not really.
Not really.
No. No discernible marks.
Boom. clean cut. We're pretty clean cut, I have to say.
That did a number on him.
I think if it had been attached to the spine and the rest of the skull hadn't been in pieces, it probably just would have cut straight through.
I
think
agree.
so.
I agree.
Clean, yeah. And what's the blade look like?
I mean, it's covered in bits of skull, but apart from that, I think we're pretty good.
Yeah.
I don't see any damage.
Yeah, me neither.
There's no rolling or anything.
Nothing going on now.
This thing's scary.
That's a very
Yeah.
clean cut, yes.
Aye, that's what I thought. Very clean.
That also gives us a better look at that thrust.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
Yes.
Oh,
Oh, wow. Look
I did
at
not
that.
expect that.
Now, when it comes to thrusts like this, wow, it's in the nose. Look at that. So when it comes to thrusts like this, do they happen in kendo? Well, here's an interesting little story for you. Kendo thrusts, because normally when we think of kendo, we're like, yeah, but Japanese prefer to cut. Sure, but thrust did happen. And thrusts still happen today, but they are only limited to the throat. So modern kendo rules tell you you cannot thrust the chest, but you used to be able to thrust the chest, it's just that they changed it. Why did they change it? Because as you know, in kendo, normally you see different stances. So you will have people that use the chudan gamae, so the guard that he is using, but then some kendo practitioners, me included, prefer jodan, so when you have your sword up high. But apparently when they were allowing thrust to the chest, that was penalizing jodan practitioners. Of course, if you're a samurai in armor, you wouldn't be as penalized because you'd be wearing armor, of course. But in general, I mean, Jodan no Kamae is a fantastic one, but it seems like it was penalizing Jodan practitioners so much, so upper stance fighters so much, that they actually said, you know what, no, you're not allowed to thrust the chest, you're only allowed to thrust the throat. But that is absolutely a viable thrust when it comes to feudal Japanese, and samurai would have absolutely done that. As, of course, Skallagrim correctly stated, kendo is a lot more limited when it comes to the legal and allowed targets. That you can't cut the legs, for instance, which of course changes dramatically the sort of stances that you will choose, the sort of attacks and risks that you will take. And then there are, as I say, lots of different types of cuts that you would use in kenjutsu, but you're not allowed to use in kendo. Same for stances. A lot more stances in traditional kenjutsu than in kendo. But yeah, the thrust was pretty legit.
Well then, hello there.
My gosh. Yeah, that fit very well, actually.
About 2-3 inches in there.
Yeah, that's...
You'd be having a bad day. If that was attached to his spine, you'd be having a bad day.
Yeah.
Oh, that would be very unpleasant.
Boom.
There you go.
Yep.
I'll put up the full review of the sword soon, so keep an eye out for that. If you're subscribed and hit the notification bell, YouTube might even...
Okay, thank you so much, Skallagrim. And as I say, the video got excellent views, so not that you need any recommendation from me, of course. But if you're interested in this full review, absolutely go look for it and check out his other videos. And of course, thank you so much for watching, and thank you, Skallagrim, for producing this very interesting piece. I have to say I'm not surprised. As a kendo practitioner, even though we mostly practice with a shinai rather than a katana, I did, every time I practiced it, every time I hit, or every time I was hit, you could kind of feel, yeah, if this was a real sharp blade and I wasn't wearing any helmet, for instance, this would have been game over. Like, you could feel it. And sometimes, even when even though you're using shinai, it hurts. Like, when you're hit in the head, it still hurts. It's not going to leave any, it's not going to do any reason. Of course, and a shinai is, and do think about this, even though a shinai obviously is not sharp and a katana is sharp, but there is also a difference in mass. So when you're hit with a steel bar, it has a whole different weight to it, as opposed to a shinai, of course, because it's made of bamboo. So it's not just a matter of sharp versus not sharp, blunt. It's also a matter of you're being hit with metal, and it's gonna hurt like a MF. Okay, so yeah, this doesn't surprise me. We saw both things that I was thinking. Very deep cuts, in fact, even deeper than I thought, even with the very quick tap sort of type of cut that you use very often in kendo. It's not the only, of course. Be nice if you made more, like one maybe discussing the way they cut on the side in kendo, or as I said, like to see the double one on the temple, which usually you do when you practice before you start the actual matches, if you will. That would be nice to see as well, and maybe even the tsuki, so the thrust to the throat, the thrust to the chest that you used to be able to do. I would love for Scalagrim to produce more episodes and review other techniques that are used in kendo, even the hit to the hand, for instance. I don't know what he would need to get to try that. Do they make just the hand, so you just get the hand? I don't know. Anyways, thank you, Scalagrim, and thank you all for watching, and remember, the Metatron has spread his wings. See you tomorrow.